Los Angeles Lakers have reportedly contacted the Chicago Bulls to see about acquiring Ayo Dosunmu to their team. And this one comes from Anthony Irwin in an article. He says this. Sources say Matisse Thybulle, Marcus Smart, the most teams are watching to see if he's going to be bought out. Ayo Dosunmu and other names, the Lakers have had preliminary conversations with teams about availability and price, though no offers have been made. Now, that part is the key part. No offers have been made. And so I want to be clear here before any of my Bulls fans start reacting like, oh my God, we got the AK didn't take. It's preliminary conversations. And this happens a lot during the offseason. There are a lot of calls that we will never hear about. Sometimes you hear about like after a player's moved or later, or if a team has renewed interest near the trade deadline, we'll hear something like, oh, well, they actually called about him in the offseason. So I don't want this to be taken as something that's like, it's on the precipice of happening or anything like that. From everything that we've known, right? And this goes back to last year's trade deadline, or this year's trade deadline, I should say. It was just in February. This goes back to the trade deadline, is that we already knew that teams were calling on Ayo Dosunmu. At the trade deadline, it was said that Ayo had gotten more calls than Kobe White at the trade deadline. And we heard then that the Bulls had turned down those calls. Now, and with most smart front offices, if you heard just a few months ago, right, if just 4 months ago, 5 months ago, that a team was getting calls on a player and they turned those calls down, most people would think, okay, they don't want to move that player. But unfortunately, Arturas Karnisovas is our president of basketball operations, and his history has led to a lot of turned down trade conversations only to turn around and shop that player months later. We just went through it with Lonzo Ball, for example. We got offered a protected first-round pick that ended up being 18th overall for Lonzo Ball, that then we turned around and just 5 months later ended up trading him for Isaac Okoro, right? So, that's what it comes down to, that with this front office, you can never take that just because they turned down a deal, meaning that they won't turn around and try to trade that same player, even if the market has changed. Now, one thing with Ayo is that he has youth on the side. He has a fair contract on the side, but his season, just like with Lonzo Ball, ended in being down with injury, not being able to finish the season. So has that trade value went down from what we didn't really hear any exact or what those offers were. We did hear, a week or so ago that, Cam Whitmore for Ayo Dosunmu was the rumor, but then he ended up being moved for 2 second-round picks. So, but he had some say in that. So maybe that's part of the reason why that didn't go down. But, I would love to be able to say that this front office is not going to move Ayo because they got calls before. But just in the reality of it, you can't say that because it's AK. That's who's running this team. And he's somebody that he will turn down a trade offer and turn around and shop that same player 3 months later. Now,